Welcome to No Apologies on Beck, where we are unafraid to speak the truth. I am your host, Rick Becker, and we have another new guest co-host. Renae Leiss is with us, the third of three this week from Ladies of Another View that you see earlier in the day on Beck. Welcome, Renae.
Thank you.
Happy to have you on.
I am honored to be on.
Oh, I saw you on, well, I've seen you several times, but I saw your segment when the Ladies of Another View had Senator Kramer on. And I know that you're relatively new to this business, and I was absolutely impressed.
Thank you.
That you felt comfortable enough, maybe you didn't feel comfortable, but you had the chutzpah enough to ask Senator Kramer direct questions about the debt and about the spending in the bill that was happening. That is very, very difficult to do. You've got a U.S. Senator that you're asking these pointed questions. There's a strong tendency to not want to ruffle feathers.
Yeah.
And you weren't afraid, and I commend you, and I respect you for that.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've got another interesting show for you. We're going to be covering some more stuff, what's going on in D.C. I want to hit it from a little bit of a different angle. We've got a couple of interesting guests tonight. I mean, really interesting guests tonight. And we're going to also be talking about spending because I had to hit that a little bit based on, again, what I saw with you and Senator Kramer.
Great.
So as we lead off, last night we hit a lot of what was happening in Washington, D.C. Counting the electoral votes and accepting them in Congress got put on hold because of the riot and the rampage in the Capitol building. A lot of concerns with that, a lot of disparity about what the majority of the people out there were experiencing and participating in versus what was occurring in the Capitol building, which was frightening, but was really the entirety of what was covered in the news. So first, and we're going to tie both those two together, the electors and the violence, but the first is that the Congress came back in session after the big disruption, and they did count and accept the electoral votes. Now here's where I think that it's worthy of conversation because, as you know, there was a discussion about whether there should be an objection to the votes from selected states where there was concerns about voter fraud. Senator Cruz was known to be leading that concern from the Senate side. There were several on the House side. I think there were good arguments for both sides. All three of our delegation, Armstrong, Kramer, and Hoeven, did not side with the objection. They went ahead and gave a yes vote to accept all of the electoral votes as is. But again, as we saw in the media and what we see in the lack of civil discourse is that the mere idea to object, not to want to overturn the election, but to want to object to what was happening in some of the states, I thought was really we had a very different different treatment by the media and by many people on what happens when it's a liberal or Democrat versus what happens when it's on a Republican, the right side, or certainly Trump. I think that I watched Lindsey Graham's speech, which was fine, but I mean, he made some interesting historical points. I saw Mitch McConnell's speech. He made some very solid points for why they should accept the electoral votes. I saw Senator Ted Cruz's speech. Made very valid points on why maybe there should be some concern. Because the whole point is, if Congress is supposed to get those votes, for what purpose are they supposed to go through Congress unless that is the last stop for any concerns? And what Senator Cruz wanted to do was not to overturn the election, but simply to say, let there be a 10-day audit, if you will. There will be a tribunal with Supreme Court justices, congressmen, senators, and let's have a go at this. Now, I agree that would be incredibly disruptive, incredibly disruptive. However, I think it was well within his purview to do that. But what you heard from Democrats was how this was effectively treason and that Senator Cruz was leading a coup against the government. Again, things are handled so disparately. Something that I was not aware of because it didn't seem important at the time. I don't know if you're aware, but it's not uncommon for there to be objections to electoral votes in the past elections.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Like, the irony of this whole thing, and I don't want to get off topic too much, but in 2016, if you recall what happened then, there were people who were saying they didn't want to vote for Hillary, the electorals, or they didn't want to vote for Trump, and it was about their conscience. So we have had a lot of, but those people got escorted out with security.
Yep, the actual electors.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But in Congress, for Bush's first term and Bush's second term, they had objections. For Obama's first and second term, no objections. For Trump's first term, objections. So let's play a couple clips. It's important to know that this actually occurs. And
the chair now hands to the tellers the certificate of the electors for President and Vice President of the state of Florida.
Mr. President, the objection is in writing, signed by a number of members of the House of Representatives, but not by a member of the Senate.
Mr. President, I stand for the purpose of objecting to the counting of the vote from the state of Florida as read.
Mr. President, I rise on behalf of the Congressional Black Caucus to object to the 25 electoral votes from Florida.
Mr. President, thank you for your inquiry. It is in writing. It is signed by myself on behalf of my diverse constituents and the millions of Americans who have been disenfranchised by Florida's inaccurate vote count.
Is the objection signed by a senator?
Well, Mr. President, I am objecting to the idea that votes in Florida were not counted.
The clerk will report the objection.
We, a member of the House of Representatives and a United States Senator, object to the counting of the electoral votes of the state of Ohio on the ground that they were not, under all of the known circumstances, regularly given. Signed, Stephanie Tubbs Jones, State of Ohio. Barbara Boxer, State of California.
The objection today is raised because there are irregularities across this country with regard to voting. And we as a Congress have an obligation to step up to the plate and correct them.
Mr. Speaker and members, I dedicate my objection to Ohio's electoral votes to Mr. Michael Moore, the producer of the documentary 9/11.
First of all, we're here because not a single election official in Ohio has given us any explanation for the massive and widespread irregularity in the state. No explanation for the machines in Mahoning County that recorded carry votes for Bush.
Our people are dying all over the world. A lot from my state. For what reason? To bring democracy to the far corners of the world. Let's fix it here, and let's do it first thing out. Thank you very much.
What purpose is member right?
I have an objection because 10 of the 29 electoral votes cast by Florida were cast by electors not lawfully certified because they violated Florida's prohibition against dual office holding.
Debate is out of order. Section 15 and 17 of the Title III of the United States Code require that any objection be presented in writing, signed by both members of the House of both a member of the House of Representatives and a senator. Is the objection in writing and signed not only by the member of the House of Representatives but also by a senator?
It is in writing, Mr. President.
Is it signed by a senator?
Not as of yet, Mr. President.
In that case, the objection cannot be entertained. Gentlewoman Rise.
Mr. President, I object to the certificate from the state of Georgia on the grounds that the electoral votes were not...
There's no debate. Section 15 and 17 of Title III of the United States Code require that any objection be presented in writing, signed by both a member of the House of Representatives and a senator. Is the objection in writing and not only signed by the member but by a United States senator?
Mr. President, even as people waited hours in Georgia...
There's no debate. And if there's not signed by a senator, the objection cannot be entertained.
Mr. President, the objection is signed by a member of the House, but not yet by a member of the Senate.
Well, it is over.
So here's the point. Maybe that was overdoing it with so many examples. But the thing is, we have what we see in the media, what we hear on social media, and from our colleagues at work, friends, family, is how crazy it was for certain Republican legislators to put up an objection to try and delay and have a tribunal to determine if there was fraud before okaying the electoral votes. But If you hadn't seen that, most people would be thinking it's never been done before. The Republicans are treasonous. They're Trumpites that want to overtake the country and give Trump not only his second term, but his third and fourth term. And you have right there historical evidence this is being done all the time. Yes, what we showed you also did not have a Senate vote to go with it, so it couldn't go as far. But again, I think what we have to acknowledge here is we have to step back from what we're seeing in the media and actually assess for ourselves, is Senator Cruz's argument a reasonable argument, or is he being treasonous to the country? And I think it's clearly the former, not the latter. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about more stuff that happened in D.C., this time more with regard to the protesters. Hang with us.
Capital City Restaurant Supply is your one-stop shop for quality restaurant products for the large to small kitchens. Commercial-grade restaurant and bar supplies, limb game processing equipment, refrigeration, dinnerware, and smallware. We sell everything including the kitchen sink from trusted manufacturers for the chef and all of us. Open to the public since 1971, we are veteran-owned and North Dakota proud. Let us take care of your restaurant and home kitchen needs today by visiting us at 1414 Interstate Loop in Bismarck or on the web at capitalcityrestaurantsupply.com.
Hi, I'm Dennis Haugen, along with my sons Andy and Mike, and we're showing our support for wind energy in North Dakota.
Wind energy has provided farmers like us with a steady stream of income that's not tied to the weather like crops and cattle are.
Another bonus is that wind farm owners are required to maintain the roads leading up to the turbines. Because of that, oftentimes these roads are the best in the county.
Wind energy is good for landowners, it's good for the land, it's good for our economy, and it's good for North Dakota.
Are you a thrill seeker, sightseer, or day tripper? The Ford Bronco Sport SUV is built for you. Four Bears Casino is giving away a 2021 Ford Bronco Sport loaded with a ton of interior space, safari-style roof, smooth suspension for any terrain, and easy-to-clean surfaces. Qualify now just by playing your favorite slots at Four Bears Casino. Double points on Sundays. Also get in on Super Senior Wednesdays, slot turning Thursdays, and hot seats on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Spin into Four Bears Casino and Lodge for chances to win.
Some things in life are hard. That's why banking shouldn't be. Cornerstone Bank.
We're back. No apologies on Beck. We were just talking about the electors in D.C. And now I want to kind of carry that similar conversation about how we have two standards and have to, unfortunately, sort of wade through a lot of hypocrisy when we're trying to understand what's happening in our country when we listen to the media. Now, what happened yesterday with regard to the damage of property and the breaking of law, I don't condone. Right. Not one iota.
Right.
And I didn't, and I spoke up loudly when BLM and Antifa were having riots and causing property destruction and even harming people. And it's the same for this group. Whatever portion of what happened out there in D.C. that caused that is condemned. I hope that they are brought to trial. And I hear claims that It's not actually a lot of Trump supporters, but it's more of Antifa or far left. You know what? If that's true, let's see the evidence.
Yeah.
And I would love to think that people on my side didn't do that.
Yeah.
But I have to see the evidence.
Right.
It's the same with the BLM crap that went in Minneapolis. What I heard from liberals is it was far-right extremists that infiltrated the group, caused the damage.
Yeah.
Not true. Not true. Show me the evidence. I believe it.
Yeah.
There was no evidence. It was false. And it turns out, of course, as always, they don't acknowledge that their accusations were incorrect. They just kind of let it slide. But the problem here is that unlike you and I, Renae, where we are going to have a sense of integrity when it comes to consistency of how we treat people and how we assess and render opinions, we don't see that in the media. And part of it is, for instance, in DC yesterday, instantly they were going with it's a revolution and these are violent people. You need to call in the National Guard, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But when you had similar things happening all across the country for months on end, we kept hearing about peaceful protests. I mean, let's play a couple clips here just so we can recall what was not so long ago.
That was our first big night here. That the Secret Service did take the president into the bunker there at the White House. If you've ever been, Kevin, I'm sure you have. I've seen, too, this area where there is a seal there. There is a protective measure that is like none other. If the president has to go down into that bunker,
after what were 6.5 hours of mostly peaceful protests here around the White House, things have definitely taken a turn here. A line has been crossed. I'm standing at the corner of Connecticut and I, just about 2 blocks north of the White House, and you're looking at least one car set aflame here by protesters. I don't think you can probably make it out in a shot, but a lot of the windows here along Connecticut Avenue have been smashed in the businesses here, banks, restaurants, office buildings, and so forth. I think what we saw here tonight was protesters who were stymied in their attempts to get closer to the White House.
So,
well, you know what I see
right in
there?
DC.
I see all the world as a stage. It's the first thing that comes to mind, and we see so much political theater. You know, I'm so tired of it. As you know, Rick, I left the Republican Party in 2016, and I just don't want to. I don't want to reward the bad behavior on either side, and I see the propaganda on the right, nothing like the left. You know, I get frustrated because I see that they're not telling the full story.
Yeah.
And sins of omission. But the left they're unhinged. I mean, they're just unhinged.
You know, I want to dive deeper into this just a little bit because I've been struggling with this now, and I think I've kind of come to terms in the last 48 hours. There are things that happen with people that I support or people that are supported by the right. And there's this tendency for me to want to say, but what about? And I never do, and I recognize that it has always bothered me when when there's a wrong that's identified and someone says, oh, but what about what happened this time, as though it's an excuse and apologizing for and giving a pass to.
Yeah.
And I never want to do that, and I saw that with Bill Clinton a lot, but back in the 90s. I don't want to do that, but when we have something which goes awry on the right, on my side, I want to acknowledge that, just like the people that broke into the Capitol. They should be prosecuted. But at the same time, I have this really nagging, irritating feeling that it's like, what about this double standard? You who are demanding process for prosecution of these people, where were you for BLM? Where were you when the president had to be evacuated because of protesters then? You were silent. So I've got two things. I'm not giving a pass to the protesters, but I want to be able to say, yes, they were wrong, they ought to be prosecuted, and what about your hypocrisy? What about your double standard? Where were you? If you had nothing to say for BLM, then keep your mouth shut for these protesters.
I know. It's repulsive to watch this. It just gets your blood pressure going, and you're just going, unbelievable. And I can agree with them, but then it's like, how can you, with all good conscience, attack this and, twiddle your thumbs and make excuses for what was happening all over the country, you know, in New York, in Minneapolis. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I just don't like being in that position as though I'm giving a pass, because I don't. And it was with Trump.
Yeah.
If someone was to say, you know, oh, he lied about this.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe, perhaps I agree with you.
Yeah.
But why did you never call out any other presidents for lying?
I agree.
There are innumerable circumstances, and it's frustrating because I would like to be able to discuss the one issue at hand. But the overriding issue is you need to handle things even-handedly. And that's where people on the right are frustrated. They are at and past their limits because of the unequal treatment.
Can I be a devil's advocate for a second? Okay, so I've always been a Republican until 2016. I've been appalled by the Republicans not calling out Trump. Because I screamed for against Obama for 8 years, and pretty much, I mean, I look at all the basic, fundamental, limited government things that I believe in, and I am shocked that I would point them out to my Republican friends, and it was always like, oh, it's just 3D chess game, this, that.
Right.
I mean, it was like complete denial. Like, I felt like, you know, I remember the liberals for 8 years with Obama. I was like, are these people under a trance or something? Like, why can't they see this? And then I have 4 years with the Trump followers, and I'm going, what is going on? We're like losing our rights left and right, huge big government. I mean, we've lost more liberty in the last 4 years under Republican. The country got shut down over a virus, okay? I mean, we are spending like liberals.
Right.
And I mean, and much more. I mean, second, you know, the red flag laws, some of the things that Trump said about take their guns, worry about due process later. I didn't see anybody talking about this stuff. I'm just saying, so I'm frustrated with the left. They are, you know, hypocrites. There's no doubt about it. But I have been calling out my friends on the right, too, and going, this is ridiculous.
Well, I can't disagree with you that it's very interesting. And again, this is not to give a pass, but I think that President Trump was a representative of an idea which was a result of frustration and a result of being silenced. And so it's not so much, I think, as people pledging allegiance and blind loyalty to him as they are seeing that he is a symbol of them wanting so desperately to get past what's been going on for the last many years. Not to give a pass. I mean, trade was a big one for me. The deficit spending, huge, major problems. On the other hand, a lot of good things too. But you're right. To give a pass blindly to anybody on either side.
I agree. We got to be consistent.
I agree with you. I'm glad you're here to keep me in line. All right, folks, we are going to come back. Next up, we are going to be talking about some spending issues. Hang with us. We'll be back shortly.
Jeez, what a mess. Look at that. There's roof stuff everywhere. It's so embarrassing. Ruins the neighborhood. Come on, humans. Let's get this fixed.
Don't let your roof go to the dogs. Call America's Best Contractors for your free estimate.
Need a new woof?
After checking with the rest, go with the best. America's Best Contractors. 258-2412. Online at americasbestcontractorsincorporated.com.
In southwestern and south central North Dakota, on any given day at any given moment, a Dakota Community Bank and Trust customer is logging in or signing on to do their online or mobile banking. We believe that community banking can blend both the past with down-home customer service in-house and the future with modern banking conveniences and technology for our customers anywhere, like here or here, all while honoring our long-standing tradition of community-first oriented banking here at Dakota Community Bank and Trust.
My wife was diagnosed with early stage Alzheimer's. We talked about it and we kind of decided we'd be a little bit proactive and try to start making provisions. So we started looking here, and Eventide worked out to be pretty much the perfect answer. I guess I didn't expect it to be so nice. The staff here are terrific. We enjoy it.
Beck News brings you real people and real news. Every weekday on KNDB, KNDM, and KRDK. Start your evening with the Dr. Duke Show at 4. Take a fresh look at current events with Ladies of Another View at 4:30. Go down the road with Joel at 5:30. Watch No Apologies with Becker at 9. Cap off your night with No Filter with Debbie at 10. Beck News. Real people, real news.
The professionals at Superior Glass provide residential and commercial glass installation and repair services in central and western North Dakota. Superior Glass is your source for stained glass projects, mirrors, windows, touchless and automated entry solutions. Stop by and see us at 3323 East Broadway in Bismarck or call us at 701-258-5600. Superior Glass, where you get superior service for less. Bye for now.
We're back. No Apologies with Becker on Beck, your after-hours oasis of sanity. I'm your host, Rick Becker, our guest co-host, Renae Leiss. And Renae, as I mentioned earlier, you had the cojones to talk about the concerns with regard to the most recent spending bill and how I thought it was very interesting how you put that into context with a greater debt and deficit equals less security. So I want to toss it to you for a second here and tell me about some of your concerns about what's going on.
Well, as I said, for 8 years, you know, we're all concerned about this. We aren't safe with other countries if we're going to have economic collapse, right? I mean, are they just swarming like vultures? You know, sometimes that's what I feel like is going on. They're waiting for us to go under so they can come in and take us over. Maybe I'm just paranoid, I don't know. Yeah, just basic common sense to have a stable country. You got to pay your bills and you can't overspend what you're taking in, right? Just that's what we have to do at our house, right? Your house, same way?
That's what I try and say in the state legislature.
Yeah, I know.
I don't have many takers.
I know. You're doing a great job there too. And I don't vote for a lot of people. There's not a lot of people that I feel are principled. And you are one of the principled men that I really respect. Justin Amash, Tom Massey, Rand Paul.
Those guys. Yes.
Those are all principled men. And those are the type, we need more people like that.
Agreed.
So I appreciate it. And speaking of Rand Paul, I would love to share a quote because he just did a great job, as he always does, standing up to the establishment. And
that speech was epic.
Oh, it was great.
Epic.
And I just wanted to take a few of the things that he said out of there. He said, maybe these, I wish I could, talk like him. Maybe these new free money Republicans should join the Everybody Gets a Guaranteed Income caucus. The Treasury can just keep printing up the money to the so-called conservatives who are quick to identify the socialism of the Democrats. If you vote for this spending monstrosity, you are no better. When you vote to pass out free money, you lose your soul and you abandon forever any semblance of moral integrity. And I love this part. He says, the next time you see Republicans in high moral dudgeon complaining about spending of Democrats and socialism, remind them if they supported this monstrosity spending bill that really did, the difference between the parties is less Adam Smith versus Marx and more Marx versus Engels. Now, I wasn't sure who that guy was. So I had to look
Engels?
him up. Yeah,
yes.
Friedrich Engels. And
Yep.
he, for those of you who don't know, as I didn't know, he financially supported Karl Marx. So that was quite a
Marx was a bum.
spanking that he gave to the Republicans. And I thought that was great.
Yes, that was an epic speech.
Yeah.
Rand is solid.
Yeah, I know.
Rand is solid. So, yeah, in the state, for instance, right now, we have a proposal, and it's expected to pass, where we're going to now borrow money after our huge spending increases over the last 10, 15 years. To keep the spending up and do everything that we want to do. He says there's, the free money.
Yeah.
You lose your soul. That's
Yeah.
what's happening in the state legislature right now. We're going to borrow money, and it's going to be paid back over 20 years.
Unbelievable.
Even though we have as much revenue as we have. So here's one thing. I want to go back to the U.S. spending, the U.S. debt, and I want to hit this home. We cover topics, and we cover them in a very short period of time, and it almost makes it impossible to get any depth or meaning to it. Here's a time, and we're maybe going to do this more often, but I want to hit some graphics. I'm going to run through them with you while they are up. So right now, the national debt is $30 trillion, just short of $30 trillion. It depends what's going to be happening here with this last stimulus COVID bill. But if you want to look at and go back just a little bit to 2019 on where the debt lies, and if you look at interest on the debt, that's the number I want to look at right now, because the borrowing is costing us money because we have to pay interest on the debt. Whenever you take out a loan, you have to pay it back, and you pay interest on it. Now, the interest on the debt isn't paying the loan down. It's not reducing our debt. It's just the interest. So the interest in 2019 was $375 billion. Just federal spending, not all of the stuff that's for state and local. Go to the next graph. 1% of the $30 trillion, that equals $300 billion. So we used 1%, or we paid 1%. That's $900 per citizen, $3,600 per family of 4. And again, that's just to pay the interest. That's it. We haven't made any progress. The debt stays the same. Go to the next graphic. At the $375 billion in 2019, we effectively, with what we paid down, it was functionally a 1.25% interest. Very low interest rate, which is great. Now, what if that interest rate had been 2%? That would have changed out. That $7,200, $7,000 per family of 4 would have gone to pay interest. What if it was at 3%? You'd now be at just about $11,000 per family of 4 of your money going to pay only the interest. Go to the next graphic. At that 3%, interest on the debt now jumps up to $900 billion. Go to the next one at 4%. It goes up to $1,200 billion. And at 5%, go to the next graph, it's now at $1.5 trillion, the most expensive thing, even when we lump the everything else category together. This is phenomenal. And if you think, go ahead and we're done with that graph. If you think that 5% isn't realistic because of how interest rates have been over the last couple of years, I'll remind you that in about 1990, it was 8%. Before 1990, about 1988, it was at almost 9%.
Yep.
I mean, interest rates are going up. They've now turned just a little bit. We're starting to see them slowly come up. We've talked on our show with Eugene Grainer, other people, that indicate that with all of the printing of money, there is effectively no alternative than to start to increase interest rates, which means more and more and more of the money that you have worked for and earned and are forced to turn into the federal government is being paid not for services, not for anything for you, not to pay down the debt, only to pay the interest on the debt. That's why, Renae, your points that you have brought up are important, and they need to be said over and over. You can't restate them often enough. That's all we have time for on this.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Okay, we're going to come back with more. Oh, we got a great guest. You won't believe this guy. It's Mr. Foxtrot coming right up.
Howdy, folks. It's a Caroline Cafe. I reckon it's time you're due for a hearty meal. So saddle up for the day with one of our hay-bussin' breakfast homemade soups. Fill your grill at our salad bar. Sink your teeth into our famous Caroline burger and barbecue ribs. Top it off with spoon-rattling pie with a cum roll that's sure to put a smile on even the toughest outlaws. Shake the dirt off the boots each night and warm up with the gang. Tell them about it, Stacy.
I can't wait to see you at the county line.
Since opening in Hebron in 1940, Dakota Community Bank and Trust has been your hometown bank. Our mission has been to provide modern banking convenience with old-fashioned hometown service. We've grown with the communities we serve through year-round events, countless sponsorships, and nearly 7,000 hours of volunteering each year. Learn more about our 80-year history at dakotacommunitybank.com.
Jeez, what a mess. Look at that. There's roof stuff everywhere. It's so embarrassing. Ruins the neighborhood. Come on, humans. Let's get this fixed.
Don't let your roof go to the dogs. Call America's Best Contractors for your free estimate.
Need a new woof?
After checking with the rest, go with the best. America's Best Contractors. 258-2412. Online at americasbestcontractorsincorporated.com.
For the greatest selection and full menu offering, it's the Four Seasons Restaurant and Ice Cream Parlor in Garrison. Succulent sandwiches, big breakfasts served all day, and delicious desserts. Easy access in and out for campers and RVs. The Four Seasons Restaurant at the top of Main Street, Garrison.
Some things in life are hard. That's why banking shouldn't be. Cornerstone Bank.
Welcome back to No Apologies on Beck. We have, I'm very pleased and privileged to have our next guest on, Mr. Whiskey T. Foxtrot. Thank you very much for coming out of the bunker. Mr. Foxtrot, as some of you may know, usually resides in a COVID bunker. He frequently gives us updates, and I find his updates both helpful and fascinating. Mr. Foxtrot, welcome.
Well, Rick, thanks a lot for inviting me to your bunker.
Yes.
You know, in the 308 days, in the 15 days to flatten the curve, I haven't got out of mine very often.
No.
But it was worth it to come and see you and to see Renae, and I'm sorry, Renae, I didn't realize we'd be sitting this close. So would you feel more comfortable if I did this? Because you're safe now.
Yes,
Okay,
please.
now you're not safe.
Yeah.
Safe?
Oh, goodness gracious. We should be 6 feet apart.
Well, I don't know. Does that all change on Friday? I hear our governor has decided to lower the risk in advance for a preset date because science.
Well, I figure if COVID comes out more after 10 o'clock, he probably also knows which date they're gonna, the COVIDs are gonna be less. Hey, speaking of which, your first name being Whiskey, would you like a little whiskey?
Oh, it's half the reason I came.
Is it really? Yeah, I had to, there you go. I have to hide the brand because we don't have a sponsor yet. I'm kind of hoping. There you go. So I'm shocked you came out of the bunker. When I watch your videos, I didn't think we'd get you out at all. Also, I'm sure that you were afraid you were gonna. In your videos, you talk about the risk of causing women to ovulate when they see and hear you, and so I wasn't sure if I should have any females in the room, but Renae, thanks for being brave.
Oh my goodness.
So what, 308 days for the 15 days to flatten the curve? Is that where we're at?
308 days. I think we're almost through the 15.
I see. And when do you anticipate you're going to be able to be out of your bunker permanently?
Well, I've been trying to plan my schedule around that of hiding with Biden. So I see that he's emerged recently, and if he has that kind of temerity to break loose and lead us into salvation, then I figured maybe I could too. Now, it wasn't the same for him and I, though. He had a lot of protection around him. I didn't. Just to get down to the studio, I had to dodge all sorts of flu clouds filled with the Rona.
Oof.
It was worth it to get here to see you.
Oh, I appreciate it. So the Rona hides in flu clouds.
Yeah, I hear that it's aerosolized, unless it's not. Because if it is, we need a mask. But the mask won't stop against aerosolized particles. But it does help against spit droplets. So I'm not sure which one we're on right now, but I always carry my bandana with me.
For going through the flu clouds?
For going through the flu clouds.
I'll try not to spit on you.
I appreciate that.
Huh. Are there any observations that you've been able to make with all the time that you have in your bunker on how maybe the next time we have a resurgence with the Rona, because I'm thinking Rona 2.0 is coming within the next 6 months, what do you think maybe could be done differently?
Well, I'm glad that you ask. I understand that we now have vaccines from Pfizer and Moderna.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe in any of that. I have the true cure-all, and I'm hoping I can get a meeting with the governor and explain it to him. It's peppermint essential oils. My wife's upline told me so it's true.
It is. You know, I'm sure I could probably arrange a meeting. Governor Burgum is a big fan of mine, and I can get that meeting for you shortly, I believe.
Okay, well, I want to bring him in as a broker under my wife, though. That's part of the deal.
Is it a pyramid thing?
It's a multi-level marketing tactic.
I'm sure the governor would be happy to participate in that. Peppermint oil, essential peppermint oil.
Yes,
It's kind of like an essential job. Is it difficult to discern what is essential peppermint oil versus non-essential, or do you just make it up like the governor did?
Now, I change from week to week. It depends on what I'm feeling down in my feels.
Is that right? Well, that's fascinating. Down in your feels, do you, is that something you've really become in tune with in the bunker?
Yeah, I'd like to think that I've gotten in touch with my inner feminine side and masculine side and the other 52 gender sides that I have in there. And we've all had this big battle royale. And we've decided that, we've got to discuss things and then change them and then come up with a new plan next week.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking that I would make good public policy.
That sounds like you are already a master of public policy. I wonder if you could maybe get an honorary doctorate from the sounds of it.
Yeah, well, it's funny that you mentioned doctorate, so I understand you're a doctor.
It's true, yes.
I'm a doctor, too.
Yeah, really?
I'm a doctor of prepperology. And not just anybody can be a Dr. Prepper like me. I had to take an 18-month online correspondence class from the Academy of Burt Gummer.
Is that right?
That's right.
Huh.
On Zoom.
On Zoom?
On Zoom.
Dr. Prepper. That sounds like a very delicious beverage.
Yes.
So, what's in store next for you, Mr. Foxtrot?
Well, I figured if I had the opportunity to come in and meet you, the first thing that I'd like to do now that I'm out of this bunker, or at least temporarily, was to ask you if you'd validate my parking.
I'm afraid we can't do that. We don't have the budget here at Beck for that type of thing. But I think Renae has offered to personally valet your vehicle for you, so I think we're going to be solid there.
It takes a big step to get into it. Got me one of them big jacked up pick-em-up trucks.
Hey, tell me about your wife. So I would have assumed you had no wife, no family, no friends, frankly. So when you're in the bunker, is your wife in the bunker with you, or how does that work?
My wife doesn't talk to me anymore.
I see. Does she enter the bunker?
We have a secret knock. There's code to get in.
I see. And do you, if there's a COVID cloud around her, then I presume you don't allow entrance.
For her, I'll make an exception. I gotta sleep at night.
I see.
In the bunker.
And might I ask if there's conjugal visits in the bunker, or is that something that's too risky for COVID?
Not the COVID. You already mentioned she's my wife, not my mistress. Conjugal visits don't happen.
Well,
sorry,
Whiskey, it was great to have you on. We might have to do this another time, maybe focus on a specific topic, but this was very happy to meet you. I'm glad that you came out of the bunker. Best of luck. I'm hoping that we don't go much past, say, 350 days for the 15 days to flatten the curve.
That'd be great.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, we have another guest. If you can believe it, 2 guests, 1 night. Hang tight. You're going to see who it is.
Howdy, folks. It's a Canline Cafe. I reckon it's time you're due for a hearty meal. So saddle up for the day with one of our hey-bossing breakfast homemade soups. Fill your grill at our salad bar. Sink your teeth into our famous Canline burger and barbecue ribs. Top it off with spoon-rattling pie with a calm roll that's sure to put a smile on even the toughest outlaws. Shake the dirt off the boots each night and warm up with the gang. Tell them about it, Stacy.
I can't wait to see you at the county line.
Hi, I'm Dennis Haugen, along with my sons Andy and Mike, and we're showing our support for wind energy in North Dakota.
Wind energy has provided farmers like us with a steady stream of income that's not tied to the weather like crops and cattle are.
Another bonus is that wind farm owners are required to maintain the roads leading up to the turbines. Because of that, oftentimes these roads are the best in the county.
Wind energy is good for landowners, it's good for the land, it's good for our economy, and it's good for North Dakota.
Capital City Restaurant Supply is your one-stop shop for quality restaurant products for the large to small kitchens. Commercial-grade restaurant and bar supplies, limb game processing equipment, refrigeration, dinnerware, and smallware. We sell everything including the kitchen sink from trusted manufacturers for the chef and all of us. Open to the public since 1971, we are veteran-owned and North Dakota proud. Let us take care of your restaurant and home kitchen needs today by visiting us at 1414 Interstate Loop in Bismarck or on the web at capitalcityrestaurantsupply.com.
My wife was diagnosed with early stage Alzheimer's. We talked about it and we kind of decided we'd be a little bit proactive and try to start making provisions. So we started looking here, and Eventide worked out to be pretty much the perfect answer. I guess I didn't expect it to be so nice. The staff here are terrific. We enjoy it.
The professionals at Superior Glass provide residential and commercial glass installation and repair services in central and western North Dakota. Superior Glass is your source for stained glass projects, mirrors, windows, touchless and automated entry solutions. Stop by and see us at 3323 East Broadway in Bismarck or call us at 701-258-5600. Superior Glass, where you get superior service for less. Bye for now.
Now is the best time to plan for your 2021 farm equipment needs. North Dakota-based Summers Manufacturing is currently offering early order savings. Take advantage of big savings on North America's broadest tillage line, including the Super Coulter Samurai and the innovative BRT Renegade, as well as the best built, best backed land rollers in the industry. Talk to your Summers dealer today or go to summersmfg.com to learn more about early order savings available on all Summers equipment.
Welcome back to No Apologies on Beck. We have a guest with us, Mr. Matthew Simon. I am labeling him an informed voter. You may ask why I have someone on who I'm not giving a better title to. It could be that I lack imagination, or it could be simply that in my conversations with Mr. Simon, I find him to be highly intelligent and informed and also aware of things like spending and debt. Ties in perfectly with Renae, who I also have now new admiration for. So I thought, hey, the three of us can sit here, chill, and chat. Welcome, Matt. Very happy to have you on. What do you think? Did you catch our previous segment where Renae and I were talking about?
Yeah, I was able to listen in, and I was very impressed. I thought it was some quality information that was brought up, and maybe not so apparent to John Q. Public. It's a subject that's not frequently talked about in a lot of homes or schools.
What do you Senator Kramer, I think, put some nuance on it. It's easy to bring in the torch and the pitchforks and say, you should have voted no. Now, I still think they should have voted no.
Yeah.
But he put nuance on it in that it makes us step back and say, okay, I get it. Some of the stuff is necessary, some of it's not. Do you say no to the good stuff to prevent the bad stuff? Again, I say yes, but it adds nuance. What are your thoughts on the spending bill that the three, Armstrong, Hove, and Kramer, of our delegation voted in favor of?
I think the process that we have adopted recently of doing an all-inclusive omnibus spending bill makes the bills, so voluminous that nobody could possibly sit down and read through them and analyze and figure out what the ramifications are for each little section and how they may intertwine with one another. So I'm very against just the methodology that we've adopted to begin with. As far as them giving the yes vote to it, again,
I'm gonna interrupt you for a second.
Sure.
I'm pretty sure Armstrong did not vote in favor of it, and I didn't want to. I categorized them together, probably thinking back to the electoral votes. I believe our two senators voted yes, and Congressman Armstrong did not. So I'm sorry.
Yep, you're correct. And
yeah, please continue.
I'm glad that you clarified that, because I would have talked right over that. But that's absolutely spot on. And he did come out publicly and said a lot of the same thing that we're discussing right here. That this is presented in such a way that it could not possibly be read or understood. And I remember not that many years ago, it was a running joke with the Affordable Care Act when it was passed, and Nancy Pelosi famously quipped that we've got to pass this thing to see what's in it. And she was rightfully derided by a lot of people for that comment, because it was, first of all, it was a stupid comment to make, but second of all, it showed a dereliction of duty on her part. So at some point, we need to look at these omnibus spending bills that we've now allowed to become standard operating procedure. And we need to ask the same question. Are we pulling a Pelosi? Are we passing things just to find out what's in them? Are we taking on word? I think there's maybe a misconception that we have 4 people in the delegation that sat down and wrote 5,400 pages of the spending bill.
Right.
That's absolute insanity. I mean, first of all, a substantial portion of it's template driven. It's from previous appropriations that are amalgamated all together.
Yep.
But then beyond that, you have all the various special interests that have things that they want involved in there. Pork.
Yep. A lot of pork keeps getting added in.
Yeah, and they write that up, and then they obviously lobby to have it included as well. So these things get massive.
Yep.
I like what Justin Amash said. He said, I've spent 10 years warning about the erosion of representative democracy resulting from increasingly centralized power, but even I didn't imagine Congress that would be handed a almost 6,000-page bill at 1:46 p.m., voted on it at 7:35 p.m., and then bragged about it that they did a good job.
Yep.
And he said, America, stop letting this happen. Don't vote for anyone who voted for this. It's not okay. Representative government is important. Too many people have come to accept this. This doesn't end well. And that's how I feel is we can sit here and complain about it, but you know what we keep doing? We keep rewarding bad behavior. And if you keep rewarding bad behavior, you end up, it's like, you don't let a drug addict on crack, you don't give them the keys to your house, and that's what we're doing when we vote for these people, and they just keep making excuses.
I agree, and your phrase, dereliction of duty, that you applied to Nancy Pelosi, I think applies to voting on a 5,000, 6,000 page bill without having any idea. You don't even have enough aides that could have read the entirety of the bill and then reported to you what's in it. Yeah. I'd love to talk with Congressman Armstrong to see if that's the reason he voted no, and how do you correct that? But I agree. How in the world is that representative when you don't know what you voted on?
Yeah.
Sad, sad, sad.
It is sad.
What are your thoughts on, Matthew, I commented earlier tonight, North Dakota, our spending has gone up tremendously. I like to always reference how about 11 years ago, North Dakota spent $33 million less than South Dakota per year. We're now spending $2 billion more than South Dakota per year.
Wow.
So despite our gigantic increase in spending, this session, we are going to be voting on bills for bonding, which means borrowing. The state is going to borrow money from the next generation to pay for special projects. I assume that you'd be opposed to that kind of a thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we all have an obligation to the next generation. That's what keeps a functioning society intact. I'm going to absolutely mangle an old Greek proverb, but it essentially says that, you know, that your society is in a good position when you see old men planting trees under whose shade they'll never sit and enjoy. Again, terrible paraphrasing, but the idea is valid. When we take out this kind of debt that we know is going to be passed along to our children, we're not aiding in the development of a quality society. We're actually enslaving the next generation. And if you wouldn't do that directly to your children or your neighbor's children or, you know, people anywhere within your sphere of influence, then why is it okay to sit behind government contracts, behind, you know, spending bills, and then do it that way?
Yep.
Just because you interject a middleman being, you know, this blob of government that's without a face and without a name doesn't make it right.
Yep, it's very, very easy to be compassionate when you're spending other people's money.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep. All right, Matthew, it's fantastic to have you on. I appreciate it. I think I'd like to have you on again sometime. Renae, I hope you can guest co-host again. No mailbag, no trivia tonight. There's too much interesting, intelligent stuff, folks. Join us next time. We're going to have another interesting show. And next on Beck is No Filter with Debbie. We'll see you next time.